we should be good to go. Okay, test. Oh. Helps if I don't mute it. Ah, there we go. Okay, cool. Also, let's mute that again. Alright, so I done this stream earlier on talking about Log4j. I did say I was going to stick it up on YouTube. I can't. Oh, actually, I have to go live here. Too many places to go live, not enough time. Bear with me. Video. There we go. Okay, yeah. So I did this on my lunch break today, and I did say I was going to put the video up on YouTube, but I forgot to tick the little button that tells Twitch to save the stream, so didn't save the video. So I thought I'd just do it again. So I'm only going to be on for half an hour, 45 minutes maybe, just talking through this again. I'm going to be talking about the Log4j stuff that's going on. There's a lot of confusion about how it's actually being exploited and how it works effectively. Anyone joining on TikTok, if you want to see the screen better, go to Twitch. You'll be able to see it on there a lot better. Okay, so what I see is Log4j. So it's a library, an open source library that is used by a lot of Java applications, and it's a logging function. So it's a way of handling logs of systems. It's an open source library. You use them in a lot of applications. It's all over the place. But the big problem with it is this particular library is used everywhere in tons of applications, tons of programs, tons of systems. So there are so many things that are vulnerable to this, it's difficult to count. And yes, there are patches coming out for it and have been released for some aspects of it. The problem being is that some of these things are, maybe embedded in a device. So let's take a firewall, for example. The firewall, somewhere in its programming, it's going to be built in lots of different programming languages potentially, and lots of different aspects and elements to it. Keep that up. Lots of different elements to it. So, sorry, bear with me, my sign is falling down. Okay. So there's lots of different elements to it, and then a part of that might use Java and it might use Log4j. So that firewall is vulnerable to this attack, let's say. Now, the patch has been released to fix the Log4j function, but you as the user of that firewall, you have to wait for the firewall company to create an update. So they have to take it, they have to test it, they have to make sure it works, they have to make sure it doesn't break anything else, and then release it to you, and then you have to find time to patch it. It's a long process, and Log4j is in so many different things that's why this is so big, because it's going to take so long to get everything patched and brought up to speed. Is pfSense vulnerable? That's actually a good question. Someone asked, sorry, anyone who's watching on TikTok, I'm not paying attention to the chat on there too much, so if I miss a question, apologies. I will be paying attention to the chat in YouTube and Twitch a lot more, so ask in there if I miss your question. But is pfSense vulnerable? I don't know, actually. It's a good question. I'll see everyone find that out. I don't know whether pfSense uses it or not. But that's the problem with this vulnerability, is because it's so embedded into so many different things. Now, one of the misconceptions, one of the things that people seem to think is that, oh, it only affects public-facing things, so websites or web applications, or things that are publicly accessible, and it's not the case. Now, yes, those devices give a nice way of an attacker trying to do multiple different types of attacks, because if there is a website, there are lots of ways to get this exploit into them and propagate it through the network that way. But it's not the only way of doing it. It definitely doesn't need to be public facing, and let me show you why. Get a pen. Okay, so I've got this mock-up, this dummy network here, and we've got our internet and we've got our firewall, and we'll say that this 200.1. That's our public IP. Apologize for the writing, it's not that good in the mouse. So 200.1, that's our public IP address. An attacker sends a request in to that. Now, there's no endpoint here. There's no website. There's no application. There is nothing here. This is solely, for the purposes of this company, this firewall is just monitoring our internet. So this is just, it's just a firewall. We don't have anything public facing. Okay, so anyone who went to a browser, tried to navigate to this IP address, they wouldn't get anything. Okay, so just bear that in mind. There's nothing public facing here. It is just your external internet connection, and it's protected by a firewall, as it would be in most companies. So they send the request in. The firewall more than likely is going to block that request because, you know, it's an inbound request from a website or a device that you're not expecting. It's not on a port that you have open. You know, it's just some random request that an attacker sent. And this is what attackers are doing. They're sending lots of these requests to fucking anything they can find. So the firewall will deny that request. It will block it. Now, here's where the problem with Log4j comes in. Your firewall typically is going to log that it blocked it, and it will store some details about that traffic, because it will say, oh, I blocked a request at X time, here's what the request was, and that's the problem. Now, your firewall is going to log this. You want to log these things from a security perspective because you want some of your diddling is behind your webcam. Oh, sorry, yep, so it is. Apologies. You're not missing much. I'll move myself down here. Thank you for that. So yeah, you want to log this information. You want to find, or you want to know what's going on at your firewall. This is normal. Everyday security operation, you'll log what's happening in the firewall, because if someone's maybe starting a DOS attack, they're trying to deny the service at endpoint, or they're just trying to knock on the door and maybe do some firewalking to figure out what kind of firewall you're using, look for open ports. That's the kind of traffic that you want to know about as a security engineer or analyst. You want to know what's going on at the firewall. So it's not wrong that the firewall logs this information. This is expected behavior. But if this firewall is vulnerable to Log4j, whenever it logs that traffic, the exploit is in that packet because it's in the request. The payload then detonates, and they've got then a reverse shell back out to them from the firewall if the firewall is vulnerable. Now, let's pretend that the firewall is not vulnerable, because it doesn't stop there. We're going to pretend that the firewall is not vulnerable. Let's say this is all good. Firewall is fine. It's still going to log the traffic. Now, in a big enterprise, a company is not going to have the logs stored just on the firewall, because you might have multiple firewalls. You're going to have a lot of devices sending a lot of logs. You're going to aggregate them somewhere. You're going to collect all of these logs in a SIM tool or something like Splunk, so that your analysts can review it and ingest it and even do some automation on it to try and figure out, okay, you know, what's potentially attack traffic and what's not. In this case, this thing, we're not using a honeypot in this example, so we'll just, yeah, this isn't a honeypot. This is going to be our IDS, our intrusion detection system. And we'll say that this, oh, we don't have a web server. Sorry, I did say we have no web server. We'll say this FTP server here, this is our logger. Logs. So this is where all of our logs from all of our devices, so not just the firewall, but everything in the network that's generating logs, gets sent to the logger for our security people to review. Now, so the firewall logs the payload, logs the request from the attacker that has the malicious payload. The firewall isn't vulnerable to it, so it's fine, but it then passes the logs on. So the logs with the payload, and I'll show you the demo, the POC code in a minute, so you'll see just how small this is, then propagates through the network. It gets sent because the firewall is trying to send it to the logger. Now here's where the IDS comes into it. An IDS gets a copy of all network traffic. It's an intrusion detection system, so it looks for signs of compromise and things like that. I won't go into too much about what IDSs and IPSs do. If you're interested, let me know. I can certainly do more of these streams. But it gets a copy of the traffic as it's going through. It doesn't even come out the other side, it just gets a copy, I'd say. Now, what happens if the IDS uses Log4j? Anyone guess what happens whenever it receives a copy of the network traffic? break all the things. Yes, bearded IT guy, break all the things. Basically, if the IDS is vulnerable, the payload then detonates and a connection goes out to the attacker from the IDS. So that's another point that it can. And again, I really want to stress here: no public endpoints. There's nothing public on this apart from your internet, and everything is blocked as it should be because that's what the firewall's doing. But just because everything is logged, this is where security sort of bites us in the ass, because we're logging so much information, because we're doing all this for security. It's then making this a problem because it's sort of bringing the payload with it to say, hey, we seen this thing, but you're then bringing the issue with it because the exploit, or sorry, the vulnerability lies in so many things. So that's at the IDS. Now let's say the IDS is not vulnerable again. So firewall is not vulnerable and the IDS is not vulnerable. The IDS receives a packet of it. Now at this point, particularly now, most people will have IDSs set up to detect Log4j. Most of them will. Once this started hitting, people put it into their IDSs. So it might detect this and say, oh hey, there's we're seeing Log4j traffic, and that gives you a bit of a heads up. If it's an IPS, so an intrusion prevention system, you can actually get it to start blocking the logs as they go back, which is a useful way to help mitigate this. But in this case, we'll say we've got an IDS and this is brand new, we don't know this is going on, or we just aren't bothering with it because we think, oh, we don't have any public web endpoints, so we don't need to worry about this. Big fucking mistake. So the IDS isn't vulnerable, it gets a copy of the traffic, it's just like, oh, this is just logs from the firewall, it's fine. The traffic, at the same time, bear in mind the IDS gets a copy of it, so the traffic is already moving through the network, and it moves to the logger. Now, and this is what we're seeing a lot, or what I've seen a lot in a few companies, is the SIM tools, the security tools that are vulnerable to this have started running code, which is a bit concerning. But it gets to the logger, and the logger's vulnerable. So again, 10 guesses, gold starred, anyone who thinks what happens. The exploit code is in the payload. It detonates. Connection out to the bad guy. Now, it gets worse. Believe it or not, it gets worse. Because in between the firewall and the logger and the IDS, you have your switches. You have your routers. You might have load balancers. You might have so many things between point A and point B. And guess what they might be using? They might be using Log4j. And so at every single point through the network is a potential for this exploit to detonate. Even though your firewall blocked it. Bear that in mind. I can't stress this enough. This is the big thing, is your gateway, your endpoint, regardless of what kind of endpoint it is, it's just how you get out to the internet. It's blocked it. But because it logs it and says, oh, this is something, this is some activity that, we've blocked it, we want to log it, make sure that the security team are aware that this was logged, it then pushes its way through the network. Now, there has been a joke going about saying, it's okay, we can't be got by this because we don't keep logs. And I mean, yeah, fair. If you don't keep logs, you're golden. But I wouldn't want to work in that company because God knows what the fuck else you're not missing. There is a big concern as well at the minute that everyone's so focused on Log4j that we are missing other attacks that are ongoing because everyone's so hyper focused on this. Another novel way that this might exploit, and this is going to be the last time you see this slide, and then we'll actually get to the code and I'll show you the actual exploit running. Actually, let me get my box up and running because it takes a bit of time to get started up. Another fun way that this can actually detonate is whenever the security analysts are looking at the logs, which is just, to me, is just hilarious. Where am I? So if you think about it, let's say all of your network is not vulnerable to Log4j, right? Let's say the whole network is not vulnerable. Are you a police officer? Do you have to answer? No, I'm not a cop. No. Why does someone think I'm a cop? So let's say nothing in your network is vulnerable, right? All of these devices are all good. Oh, whoops, back one. let's say all these devices are not vulnerable, right? They are all fine. But let's say that your endpoints, or sorry, your terminals, the actual computers that your users are sitting at, let's say there's some arbitrary application on there that's using Log4j. Well, what happens whenever your security analysts pull the logs from the logger and view them? Yeah, you guessed it. I think I'm getting my point across here. There are so many areas in the network where this could detonate, and you're screwed. Um, you're just absolutely fubar at that point. People on TikTok seem to think I'm a peeler. I'm a police officer for some reason. I am not. No. Where are we? Okay, so that's the gist of why this is such a big vulnerability and such a big issue. If you have any questions, by all means, TikTok I'll be a bit behind, but I can see the chat for Twitch and YouTube. So if you have any questions about it, if you have anything like that, feel free to ask. I'm going to get up the server now, and I'm going to show you the proof of concept code. Now, I would like to stress this is proof of concept code. You can run this yourself if you want on your own devices, and it will not actually exploit the code. It will just give you, you'll see it as a sort of indicator that, oh, this is potentially vulnerable. I wouldn't really recommend doing this in your company environment as a way to find devices. There's a lot of scanners that people have made, they're on GitHub, and there's some reputable companies have made a few scanners as well to search for Log4j in your network. I would suggest using them rather than doing the individual exploit, but I think it's interesting to see the exploit so that you know sort of what it looks like and how easy this is to actually do. What's this? Is there a try hack me room where you can see what Log4j does? Yep, that's exactly what I'm going to pull up here now. There's a try hack me room for it. The try hack me room actually takes you through a whole lot. It has mitigations. The try hack me room, I would highly recommend going through all of it. I'm not going to go do that tonight just because it's late for me and I have to get up early. I'm just going to go through the proof of concept thing, but the try hack me room, I would definitely recommend going and using, because it actually takes you through like a full actual exploit of it, which is quite cool. Let's see, have I, yep, so if you full screen. Cool. Let's bring this boy over, hopefully you can see that. Let me check. Okay, you can, cool. Okay, so this is our attack box that we are going to be attacking, obviously. So actually the first thing I wanted to show you, a silly sausage. First thing I wanted to show you is this. I know this looks like a lot of blood on the screen. It's not color coded for you, sorry. I'm used to seeing these logs in red. So we say that there's blood on the screen whenever you get lots of logs like this. But this is actually what the request looks like. Whenever I said in the diagram, you've seen like the request coming in and hitting the firewall. This is sort of what it looks like whenever it's logged. You see you've got a lot of random stuff. This server that I'm going to be doing is running Apache Solr, which is particularly vulnerable to this kind of stuff. And this is what the log looks like. So you can see it's going to this particular path, admin/cores. And here is the bit that we are actually exploiting, this params area, the parameters, because we can put bit of code in there, bit of Java, and it runs. And this is just a request. This is just someone firing something into this, and it just gets logged. And this is what's populating through the network. And if at any point it hits something that is Log4j, or has a vulnerable version of Log4j, that's when it detonates. So that's what the logs look like. Let me get up OBS because I missed the chat. Swedish? No. Northern Irish? I am from the UK. Okay, cool. Right. Also, Try Hack Me have a advent of cyber going on, like beginner friendly challenges every day in Christmas. Would highly recommend it. It is very, very good. Okay, so let's get a server. Let me get up a terminal here. Let's make that a little bit bigger for you. No, keyboard shortcuts do not work in this, by the way, just before anyone shouts at me for clicking the button every time. So we have a server that we want to check. So we're going to give it a quick scan. So it's nmap b-p. Okay, so that is, I do a capital V there, but it does. No, it didn't. Okay, cool. So this is an Nmap scan. This basically scans for open ports for anyone who doesn't know. The -v means verbose, so it sort of it spits out to the terminal as it's doing the thing, and the p dash p dash basically means scan all the ports. I'm doing that because I happen to know that the port that we're looking for is outside of the typical ones that are scanned. If you leave out the -p dash, it scans the I think it's top 1,000 most common ports. If you do the -p dash, it scans all of the ports, but it takes a very long time to run. So if you use the -v, that's why you're getting this output here, which you can then see it as it hits things. So we'll let that go for a minute. Let me just check if I've got any questions. Is there a reason why you don't specify the type of scan? I don't need to for this. So I don't. This is taking time to come up as the service actually started. How long? Maybe it has not. Okay, for the sake of speed, I'm going to tell you which port it is. So you can specify the port to scan. So you can. I have it written down. So I have notes. You ever get into doing this kind of thing like hack the boxes, you will have a massive thing of scratch notes. Where am I? Ah, there it is. So instead of -p dash, if you do -p and then the port number that you care about, it will just scan that port, or you can do a range if you're that way inclined. 8983. So if we do this, we can see that it is open 8383. And if we do a S capital V, you'll be able to capital V. We should get the service as well. A second, it takes a bit longer to run that. But yeah, someone said, why didn't I specify the type of scan? There's different types of scans that we can do with Nmap. It was just speed's sake, not that it made it any faster. Okay, and so with the -SV is sort of, I always remember it as version, but it's, I don't know what it actually stands for. I can never remember, but it gets some information about the actual service that's running on the system. And in this case, you can see it's an HTTP server, so it's a web server, and it's running Apache Solr. For Log4j, that is golden. Will this be saved? Yes, I'll put this up onto YouTube. So I will after, all being well. So we can see that we've got an Apache Solr port here. And from the logs that we looked at earlier, we know what the endpoint is. So if anyone's familiar with attacking websites, you'll be familiar with the concept of looking for like somewhere where you can actually input a bit of send some values into the web server. There are plenty of ways of doing this without needing to do that, which is somewhat terrifying. Where am I? So, like I said, I'm just going to do the proof of concept for this, not the full-blown exploit. I will maybe do the full-blown exploit at another time if people find it interesting, but I would highly recommend doing the try hack me room itself, because that's just what I'll be following along, because it's great for examples. So let me just grab the code. Oh yes, first thing we want to do is set up our cat listener. So ncat lmvp, and we'll do 999. Okay, so this is our listener. So this is what's going to receive our connection from the victim machine, the machine that we're actually attacking. -L indicates it's a listener. There's two different ways you can set up a netcat connection. This one's listening. We're waiting for a connection to come to us. I can't remember what the N means. V means verbose, same as the scan. It lists things as it does it. and P because we want to specify the port. So let's copy the code. And are you ready to see the horrendous code that is causing everyone so much hassle? That's it. One line. That is all it is. And most of that is the URL. Now, please tell me that I'm not the only one that terrifies. This is how easy this kind of exploit is to go. So you see here we've got the CURL, so it's just we're just sending an HTTP request to this site. We have the IP address and the port of the HTTP service /solar/admin/cores. Remember, that's what we've seen in the log file, and then foo equals $, backslash, and then curly braces. So this is us giving the parameters that we can then pass. The foo equals whatever doesn't matter because it's a bogus parameter. It's never really going to see a backend server. The JNDI, I will get you the name of that because I can never remember what that actually stands for, is Java naming and directory interface. So this is the part of the Log4j that's actually vulnerable to this because it just fucking runs things. And then LDAP is what we're using to actually sort of do the connection. This is part of the proof of concept, although you do use it in the exploit as well. This one in particular, what this is going to do is it's just going to return back some random, you'll see it, it'll just be some broken characters is what we're going to get back, and that's going to be our exploit. Oh, webcam, sorry. There. Yep, sorry, my bad. I didn't have the chat open. There you go. Yeah, hopefully you can see that now. So yeah, as I said, you've got the foo $, which is just a random thing we've given to the parameter, and then JN. Let me see, make this a bit bigger so I can get it all on one line. Ah, come on. You know, if I start doing these regularly, I'm going to do them on a VM because these attack boxes are absolutely great for a beginner, but my god, they can be slow. Oh my god, pick up the corner of the bloody thing, you... Okay, not user stick on 2 lines. My god, who thought it would be bad to resize the screen? Oh, do you know what? We'll do this. We'll do it this way. Will we? Am I now in the way? No, I'm not. Okay, cool. So we have there the Java naming thing. Again, sorry, I can never remember the, what's it called? Java naming and directory interface. So that's the actual part that's what we're sort of exploiting. That's the parameter that Log4j is seeing and just going, oh well, I'll just run whatever the fuck you pass after that. The LDAP, if anyone's familiar with networking, LDAP will be a familiar concept to you, but this is just what we're using again as a sort of proof of concept to sort of send this connection back to us. Again, we can use this in the exploit, and I think for the exploit in TryHackMe they do use this LDAP flag. And then here we've got our oh, what's buzzing? Damn, what are your specs? Sure, I'll answer the TikTok questions in a minute. So yeah, and then we've got the IP address of our attack machine, and then 9999, that's the port number that we were using. So I'm going to minimize this again. Got this up, so this is our listener. This is where we're going to get our connection. If I hit enter, boink, it voila. So you see there, connection from 10.10.97.102, which is our victim machine. Connection received. As you can see, this is just sent, as I said, just random bullshit back, because this is just a proof of concept. There's no shell here. There's no it's not a bash connection. If you want to see the bash connection, let me know. I'll do another video and sort of go through that, because it's a little bit more involved process. Still very, very easy, but a little bit more involved than what I'm willing to do tonight, or go through the try hack me room, because it is really, really good. And you can see here it's just came back with some random HTTP response header stuff. That's it. That's how easy this shit is. And if you remember from my lovely slide, it's here. That's all they're sending at this firewall, basically. Now, because the firewall isn't an HTTP device, they may package up the file differently, but that's basically all they are sending to these endpoints. Is just that little bit of code. Okay. Which tools? To be honest, you don't even need any tools for this. This is that is running Pirate OS. Sorry, just gonna try and catch up. Hey, how can I find your Twitch sign? Port scan in TryHackMe is virtual. I think so. Okay, cool, not too many. What are your specs? Laptop with like something. I don't know. I don't know offhand. Yeah, all you need is curl, exactly. Yeah, cool. Hey, are you a malware analyst? I am not. I am a security engineer. So I look after the all those devices that I pointed to earlier on and said, if this is vulnerable, it'll do this, and if this is vulnerable, it'll do that, and if this is vulnerable, this will do that, and this is how we are all fucked. I look after them. So yeah, that's it. That's as easy as it is. What can you do after the attack code has been run? In this case, for this one, absolutely nothing. This is a proof of concept. This is just showing that the device is vulnerable and that an attacker could exploit this. I could go. I'll maybe do it another night if people want me to. So follow and all that good stuff. And I'll do it another night potentially and go through and show how it runs. But how attackers are actually using this in the wild at the moment. They are using it to either deploy malware onto systems, so get them added into like botnets that they're using for like crypto mining or DOS attacks or whatever it may be, or they're using it to put ransomware payloads on the devices. That's what we've seen sort of happening so far. And there is also a lot of script kiddies because this is so easy. I mean, as you're saying, like it's fucking curl. That's it. There's a lot of script kiddies who are just throwing these requests out to any endpoint they can find and seeing what sticks. So I think probably I'd say January, February. I think when everyone comes back from the holidays, you're going to see a lot of people starting to see IOCs, indicators of compromise, like evidence that they've been compromised in some way, shape, or form. And I think a lot of them are going to see not much have happened. Like the person's got the shell, the script kiddie's got the shell, they've got access, and then they've went, fuck, what do I do now? Or they've panicked and backed out and like, oh, I hope they don't trace me. I think they're going to see a lot of that because everyone's been hit by this. The reason that this is so dangerous is because it's so easy and because it's everywhere. So many places are vulnerable to it. If a company, and a lot of them are sitting there going, oh, we're not vulnerable to it because XYZ, and they're not looking, they're going to get hit. Because cybersecurity is a balancing act of how likely it is to happen and how severe it is. This is both. This is right up there. This is one of the max level CVEs that you can have. This is this it's not a case of this might happen to a company. This is happening to everyone and is very likely to be exploited. So it's really, really high severity. So there are companies out there, like I'm seeing big companies who are not getting exploited almost through luck. They're seeing these things happen, and if attackers tweak their code in certain ways, they would have gotten access, but just through, again, dumb luck. And these are companies with really, really good security. There are companies out there that don't have good security, have really shit security, or think they have good security. Those companies are going to get hit really bad by this, really bad. And it's not going to be a fun time for any of them. I have a networking. Sorry, that was a bit of a long answer. Lobster slow boy. Lobster slow boy. Sorry. Hopefully that answered your question. Have you got a Discord? I don't. I did have a Discord, but it was a pain in the ass to try and manage, so I got rid of it. There is a general like tech talk one that you can join. I've got it linked in the TikTok description. I'll put it on my Twitch as well. What operating system do you use? Mostly Windows, but this, if I'm doing stuff like this, it's Linux of some shape or form, usually Powered OS. Can you get phones out of a phone? Oh, photos out of a phone that you don't have a pin for. I can, but you probably could. So oh sorry, I have a networking, computer hardware programming, PowerShell, Visual Basic scripts, Batch, Linux, command line, server, administrator, database knowledge, and I'm currently studying to become a malware analyst. All right, cool. Oh, fair enough. I thought there was going to be a question there. So it was just yeah. Oh, cool. Yeah, malware analysis. I've done malware analysis. So a few years ago, a year ago, COVID has removed all my concept of time. I finished up a master's in applied cybersecurity, and there was a malware module in it, and my god, it is not for me. No, no. It's voodoo to me. To be fair, the teacher was pretty shit, but it's neither there. Any tips for making a change into cybersecurity? Wait till Log4j calms down. That'll be my tip. No, seriously, you're try hack me again. I know I keep harping on about it, but I absolutely love that site. It's really good for learning lots of different aspects of cybersecurity because cybersecurity is huge. There's so many different avenues of it. So it's definitely well worth looking at. So I go through it, play about with things. Don't be afraid to put try hack me on your CV when you're applying for jobs, especially entry level jobs, because I mean, whenever you're joining for an entry level job, you're not going to have experience typically. Um, so what they're looking for is someone that they know they can train and someone who's keen. And if you show that you're doing all these try hack me things, you get a certificate from try hack me whenever you complete some rooms, and some learning paths. Put all that in your CV, like do that kind of shit, um, and it'll definitely help towards you. As far as certifications and stuff go that you could do, like actual paid for ones, the CompTIA Security Plus is a good one to get started, and it's not that expensive as far as certification goes. It's affordable for someone whose company isn't paying for it. It's a couple £100, I think. So that's a good certification to get. But bear in mind, certifications, in my opinion, are only good for getting jobs. Like that, you do the course, you learn the thing, the actual certification itself. Once you're in a job, everyone really wants experience. That's what they're after. So don't go overboard with certifications. What's a good resource for learning malware analysis? Um, there is a book I've got over there, Practical Malware Analysis. It is really good if you struggle to get to sleep, but it might be useful for you. It's actually got some practical malware. They're not really malware, but they mimic what malware would look like and sort of the callbacks and stuff, and it actually takes you through analyzing them. But it's a bit dated. Companies should go through security training. They should apply security regulations in place for social engineering. I mean, they do. Like, all this stuff happens, but security is the first thing to fall. As soon as things start becoming inconvenient or budget restrictions, security is the first thing that dies. It's just the nature of it, but there are regulations. There's the ISO 27001 and stuff. If people are holding data, they have to be compliant to GDPR. But all of these regulations and stuff are box ticking exercises. In fact, there was a company where we were getting audited for I think it was an ISO 27001. And part of it is, everything's secure. So lockers that you maybe have sensitive data in or sensitive documents in are locked. And the guy went over just to check one, and I knew it wasn't locked. So I just had my foot against the door, and he just gave it a little jiggle. He was like, "Yep, that's locked," ticked, and walked off. So, I mean, how good are those kind of regulations? Currently studying for my Network Plus. Nice. Network Plus is a really good one to get started. Yeah, definitely. Can you do any videos on mobile phone hacking, iOS and Android? It's not my area. I wouldn't even know where to start with iOS and Android. And in fact, that brings me on to a good point. I think it's worth mentioning. Cybersecurity is a huge area. Lots of different avenues of it. If you think of how many different areas there are in IT in general, like networking, sysadmin, hardware, fucking compliance. Like there's so many different avenues of IT in general. Desktop support. How did I forget desktop support? Um, Cybersecurity then branches off from them again into lots of other different areas. It's absolutely a huge area, massive, massive, and hacking also branches off. You got people who do stuff like this a lot, where they're actually like pen testing a system. You've got red teamers who try and pretend to be APTs, advanced persistent threat groups. So they're the bad guys that you want to watch out for. They're the ones that if they're targeting your company, they're going to know what they're doing. A red teamer sort of pretends to be them and uses their methods to try and attack a system. It's a very cool concept. So they're very busy right now, as you can imagine. You've got security engineering, security analysts, incident response, monitoring, lots of different areas of hacking. And you could be in cybersecurity for most of your life and never hack anything. I mean, most do, even if their particular job doesn't involve any hacking. You do it on the side, just have a bit of a flavour of it. So yeah, I get it a lot on TikTok of people saying, "Oh yeah, can you hack Instagram?" It's like, fuck, I have no idea. I've never tried. I've never had the inclination to try. My wife probably could. She done application security, but yeah, not me. So there's so many different avenues of infosec. Good platform for remote jobs in cybersec for non-EU resident. I don't know. I am sorry. LinkedIn probably would be your best bet, to be honest. Yeah, probably LinkedIn. Just get talking to people, ping anyone. Something all these come penetration tester as an actual career / job. Yeah, nice one. Yeah, nice one. Let me check. What is TikTok doing? Let me catch up. At Belfast, just brute force the pin. Oh yeah. Have you done any security certs over the years above your degree? No, I haven't. I have done my Cisco Certified Network Associate. That was whenever I first started in IT. I got that cert, but I haven't got any since. How's it going? Hey, just passed my core 2 today. Nice one, nice one. Easiest way to hack social media accounts is to phish, right? Yeah, I mean, easiest way to hack anything is to phish. Social engineering is just the easiest way to get into any system because people are the biggest vulnerability. In fact, I will, all being well, hopefully be doing a talk on social engineering and physical security. Two separate talks at B-Sides Dublin in March. I'm also giving the same talk to a couple of universities here in Belfast in Northern Ireland. So it'll be there if anyone wants to see it. I think they upload them to YouTube after as well. So if anyone's interested in learning a bit about social engineering and physical security, because it's I like a bit of physical security, me, because you get into the system, they're fucked. Okay, right. I'm going to sign off for the night. If you found this interesting, please do the likey, subscribe, all that good stuff, follow. If you want me to do more, please let me know. My Twitter is the same, at Brains933. So tweet at me, say yes, you'd like to see more, or say on the TikTok or Twitch or anywhere like that. Thanks everyone for following. I'll do more of these probably. Seem to be popular, so we'll see. So I shall see you later.